If the high priest went into the most holy once a year in the earthly sanctuary, did Jesus enter in 1844 only once and then again once a year thereafter into the most holy in the heavenly sanctuary?
Martin, people have this rigid notion about the movements of God. They have this fixed notion of a throne that stands in a throne room and God sits on his throne. He's pinned down.
Yes.
But if you take the vision of Ezekiel, then the throne was mobile.
It's got wheels.
And there were wheels within wheels, and the hand was under the wheels. And it turned.
Yeah.
And it was a system that was absolutely harmonious, and yet it looked confusing. So God's throne is not a fixed throne, it is a mobile throne. So what happened in 1844 is that the ministry of Christ moved from the first chamber ministry to the second chamber ministry. That doesn't mean he was nailed down.
Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't mean that the service that was done in the holy is now done. Jesus still is the bread of life.
He's still the light
Still
of the
the
world.
light. He's still
He's still the intercessor. Now, what was the difference between the first chamber and the second chamber? The first chamber, as we all know, contained the candlestick, the altar of incense, and the altar of showbread. And the altar of showbread actually is also a throne.
Yes.
It is also a throne, yes. In the Most Holy, you had the Ark of the Covenant, and then you had the mercy seat over it, which shielded you from the condemnation of the law. Mm-hmm. So what happened in 1844, Martin, was that we moved into the antitypical Day of Atonement, which stands for judgment. Mm. Now, judgment needs a standard. You cannot have judgment without a standard of judgment. If there was no law, there would be no transgression. So if there is transgression, that means there must be a law.
Correct.
Now that law is the law of 10 commandments. Now judgment cannot commence if the law is not the basis. Now where was the law? In the Most Holy. The law had been transgressed. The law condemned us to death. Therefore we need a mercy seat to shield us from that condemnation. Who is the mercy seat?
Jesus Christ.
Now, was Jesus not shielding you from the condemnation before the Day of Atonement?
No, he was doing it constantly, the whole time.
All the time. So you cannot pin this down. The earthly is an enactment, an example of the plan of salvation. It's not a rigid interpretation of where you have to stand. If that were the case, the poor priest would never be able to do anything other than what he did. But he also went home and he ate and he drank and he was married and he had children and he had a family and he did all of those things. But he officiated.
That's it.
For a year in the holy and officiated the high priest for a day in the most holy. So the ministry of Christ moved from the holy to the most holy in 1844. And the law had to become prominent.
Yes, so the judgment commenced since 1844 continuously.
Correct.
So if I can just put it maybe like this, Jesus is not standing 24 hours a day in the most holy, probably.
No. Definitely not. But the ministry that he is engaged with
That's it.
is most holy ministry.
That's
Antitypical Day of Atonement ministry. And very soon when that ministry comes to an end, the decree will go out, let him who is holy be holy still, etc.